And now I would like to welcome to us a speaker from remote, a very distinguished speaker. It's the executive director of the World Academy of Sciences and former rector of Unicamp, the University of Campinas in Brazil, Professor Marcelo Knoble, who will speak about the South-South cooperation. So Marcelo, are you connected? And
yes.
Thank you very much for being with us. Marcelo will, after speaking to us, will catch a flight to Egypt. So thanks for the effort for being here in your short schedule.
Thank you. Can you hear me well?
Very well.
Okay. So I would like to initially thank you for this kind invitation to be here with you. Just let me know if you are watching my presentation.
Yes, everything is fine.
Okay, I will change from one to other. Is changing as well?
Yes.
Okay. So, okay, it's a pleasure to be here. I will try to stay in my time. Thank you very much for this kind invitation. Of course, I wish I were there with you. A lot of friends together. It's a pleasure for me to speak in this opportunity, and I'm very glad as well for this ceremony. I am originally from Argentina. I was born in Buenos Aires, but I live in Brazil since I was 8 years old. So I am very proud of being Latin American, and I think that we have many things to accomplish. I was invited to talk about the physics research in Latin America, but of course it's a difficult challenge. As a bad student, I used the opportunity to talk a little bit about it, but of course I will give you a more general perspective from this position that I am now in, which is as the executive director of the World Academy of Sciences. I am based in Trieste, Italy, where we have also ICTP, which all physicists and mathematics around the world know very well. So what I would like to share with you is some ideas regarding, I was also invited to talk about these challenges that we have regarding the climate change, the sustainable future, the sustainable development goals of UNESCO. And as you can see here, I am sharing from physics. It's not important to see the title, but I think it's really interesting that this paper is showing a title which is a question, and the abstract is very, very simple. It says, probably not. I wanted to use this idea to show you some interesting results. I think that we shouldn't be talking about something other than global warming. I think that probably not as well. So we are facing a really, really complex phenomenon that we should take care and that we should understand better. We are, as you know, facing record temperatures. We are facing huge, extreme global change and disasters around the world, and we will need to consider that in order to keep working. So we are still working as if nothing was happening. So to make it even more difficult, one of the ambassadors mentioned about this, what is so-called now the information disorders. There are many deniers of climate change, and these deniers are really, really saying that the climate change is not due to the human action, and also the problem is that this is not only related to climate. It's related to science as a whole. We have many, unfortunately, more and more attacks on science, more and more people claiming that science is not important, that the universities are not important, and therefore we should be very active in terms of our actions. So we, as university sector, research sector, should work more on the UNESCO and UN sustainable development goals. And in my personal opinion, we are not doing much about that. I think that we must take this seriously, as we are dealing with many problems that relates to our future, to the future of humanity. We are facing, as you know, a world in transformation. The population demographics is changing. By 2050, it's estimated that 40% of the children will be in Africa. The global north is facing aging populations and declining universities enrollments. The traditional north-south dynamics in higher education are undergoing profound transformations. So I would like to share with you that Latin America, as part of this so-called global south, is not longer at the periphery. It's central to the future of humanity. As you know, I mentioned about the climate change, but of course we have the pandemics, we have the global inequality regarding the economy, regarding the poverty. We have wars and conflicts that we are facing all over the world, and these interconnected challenges, of course, require coordinated global action and scientific innovation in order to be tackled. We have, as already mentioned, the artificial intelligence, the quantum computing, health innovations, and many other things that are transformative for the world, and they offer powerful tools to address humanity's greatest challenges. What happens whenever we are in Latin America, of course, as I mentioned, from Argentina, from Brazil, everyone likes soccer, football, as we call it, or futebol, as we call it very much. So what is the difference? For example, whenever we go to any place or any team in Europe, we find players from Latin America, we find players from Africa. Why is it not the same as much as it happens in these sport areas, as we don't have that in science? I think that there is the lack of availability of opportunity, and this is why the ideas as Claf are so much important. We have a network of opportunities of coaches and many possibilities for a talent to develop. I strongly believe that every young person with a curious mind deserves a real chance to become a researcher. In fact, this analogy with soccer is also important regarding the gender inequality that we have, especially in the so-called STEM fields. So we have to take care about this important inequality in gender, because we are leaving out of the system many young talents that must make the difference in the future. So I recently published this paper, an opinion paper, and one phrase from this paper is that this is not a charity anymore. It's a strategic necessity. I mean, especially for Africa, especially for least developed countries, providing opportunities for scientists in the global south is not an act of charity. It is a strategic, forward-looking response to a more complex and demanding future. So what we have is environmental challenges that require global solutions, health crises that demand local expertise and global coordination, and technological innovation that benefits from the diverse perspectives. So what we are observing, in fact, is that the geography of science, and especially in physics as well, is changing. So the geography of science is expanding, and it's interesting to notice that nowadays, today in 2024, is the last data that we have, 60% of the scientific articles included authors from low and middle income countries. This figure was 13%, only 13% 3 decades ago. So if you see clearly the number of research articles and compare the articles with the high-income countries, you can see clearly that there is a clear growth of the low and middle-income countries. So now the majority of the articles, scientific papers, are produced in the what is so-called the global south. We have, I won't go into the detail because I don't have time, but we have been growing even in excluding China. I will show some results which are really interesting, that the low-income countries have been growing rate of about 10% per year. So we see that this is also true in the case of physics and astronomy, and this is quite astonishing. Whenever you plot here, in the left panel, I have the authors, physics and astronomy journals for comparing low and middle income countries and high income countries. And if I exclude China from the 28 major low and middle income countries, and I compare to the 28 countries of the European Union, I can see here that even excluding China, we have a larger production of science in those countries compared to 28 European Union countries. So we are clearly seeing a shift in the geography of science. So as I mentioned before, even if we exclude China from this, with China, of course, it's a huge capacity in terms of science, but even if we exclude China, these numbers remain almost the same. So what happened in these years? Some countries have heavily invested in capacity building, especially on the graduate level. If you see here on the right side, panel is the doctorates awarded in 1990, and then the other one is the doctorates in 2022. You can see, of course, the huge growth of China, but also in Brazil, we have been investing, the CNPq, the Ministry of Science and Technology, all the institutions that were created are hugely investing in capacity building in terms of graduate studies. And this, together with the infrastructure that was created, is responsible for this growth, not only on quantity, but also on the quality of the research made in Latin America and the other low and middle income countries. So as was already mentioned by some of the ambassadors, many countries have invested in research infrastructure. We have the example of Brazil, as already mentioned, with here we have people from CBPF, from CNPq, from the Sirius laboratory, and so on. And of course, many countries have reached other infrastructure to accomplish that change. Some examples in Latin America are, as I mentioned before, CNPq in Brazil, and here is a picture of Sirius, but we have in Chile the structure for infrastructure for astronomy. In South Africa, they invested more on the biomedical research. We have another example of interesting science diplomacy effort on the Sesame synchrotron source in Jordan, and so on and so forth. So the important thing is that we can catalyze together this capacity building in organizations like Claf that we are celebrating today, but also now as a director of TWAS, I must say that we are a UNESCO program unit that has been doing that for the last 40 years. We promote research capacity, support early career scientists, promote research excellence and research links. So we have usually around 600 opportunities annually. And I would like to here express our gratitude to the Brazilian government, especially here present, which has been investing and knowing that the importance of TWAS since its creation 40 years ago. Also, I would like to mention that Chile is a country that always contributes to TWAS. We don't have any funding from UNESCO itself. We are a unit of UNESCO, but we depend on projects and programs and resources from the countries to make these opportunities for the least developed countries. We made a wonderful experience with CNPq in Brazil to promote grants for researchers from least developed countries. This was a huge interest and it worked very, very well. We recently launched, mentioned who were the winners, and we have a wonderful collaboration as well with FAPESP in the state of São Paulo. We are building now another collaboration with CNPq to have a postdoc scheme for attracting African, especially African and least developed countries, researchers to work in Brazil and in Latin America. So I think that this kind of movement in multilateralism and in terms of capacity building and sharing is really important. We have also the Organization for Women in Science, for women in science for developing countries. I will not go into the details because I don't have enough time, but I invite you to take a look in our website where you can find all this information. And we also host the IIP, is the Global Network of Science Academies. We have 150 science academies together. I am now, as I mentioned before, I'm leaving to the airport to Egypt, where there will be the triennial conference of the Inter-Academy Partnership. So this is really, really an important and interesting network. We work in order to make scientific cooperation a truly scientific cooperation, protecting academic freedom, supporting capacity building, ensuring equitable partnerships, and of course, embracing science diplomacy, which we believe is fundamental for the next future. So in a truly global ecosystem, we have to take into account these demographics and geography changes, the importance of South-South collaboration and cooperation, the technology of access, which is also important and fundamental, the infrastructure, and of course, take into account that the scientific cooperation needs to be fair to access funding and publications and so on. TWAS is at the center of this transformation, and I invite you, if you need any further information, to connect with me. Afterwards, we can make a conversation and we can discuss possible future collaborations as well. So thank you very much, and I am very glad to participate in this interesting and important event that we are having today. Thank you very much again.
Thank you very much, Marcelo. If you tell us that you have a couple of minutes, I would open for someone who would like to make a question to you or comment.
Sure.
So would anyone like to say something or make a question to Marcelo before we let him go to the airport? Okay, so if not, thanks, Marcelo. It was great to see all the actions that we are doing, and I hope Claf and TWAS can also find means to cooperate closely to to push things in Latin America as well.
Thank you, and thank you for see you all, especially Fernando. I met him a few weeks ago here in Trieste, and this is the advantage of the internet. So thank you very much for inviting me, and it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.